I never imagined the person I trusted the most would leave me stranded, heartbroken, and humiliated. She thought I was weak, helpless even, but she underestimated the strength that comes from betrayal. She left me when I needed her the most, confident that I would crawl back, that I had no one else. But now, she's the one sleeping in her car, while I sip coffee on a porch that used to be hers. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's a story about rediscovering your worth when someone you love tries to bury it. Let me take you back to the moment it all began. Because everything changed the day she turned her back on me. It started quietly, like most endings do. I thought we were happy. We had a modest home in the suburbs, nothing flashy. But it was ours. Anna and I had been together for 4 years. She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my anchor after I lost my job, when my father passed, and during a long recovery from back surgery. But looking back, I should have seen the signs. The subtle shift in her tone when I spoke. The late nights she claimed were work. The way her phone suddenly lived in her hand. Its screen always turned away from me. Still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. That's what love does to you. It makes you see a mask and pretend it's a face. I had just started walking again without my cane when things took a darker turn. I remember the day vividly. Cool wind, rustling leaves, and that eerie calm before everything falls apart. Anna had offered to take me to my physical therapy appointment. I was still a bit shaky, but I figured she just wanted to be supportive. We got into her car, and the drive was quiet. Too quiet. She didn't even ask about my progress. We stopped at a gas station halfway through. I asked her to get me a bottle of water while I used the restroom. When I came out, I stood on the curb, searching the parking lot. Her car was gone. I blinked, confused. Maybe she circled around. Maybe she was just moving the car. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. My calls went straight to voicemail. My texts, left on read. I remember sitting on the curb, cars speeding by on the highway, the reality slowly seeping in. Anna had left me, stranded, and she wasn't coming back. With no wallet, no ID, no phone charger, just the clothes on my back, I started walking. Every step was a painful reminder of my still healing spine. Every glance from passing drivers felt like judgment, like I was some washed-up man who had lost everything. Maybe they were right. Took me nearly 2 hours to limp back toward town. Eventually, a kind older man at a roadside diner let me use his phone. I called my sister, Melanie, and explained everything. She was furious. Not just at Anna, but at me for staying in that relationship so long. "You're coming to stay with me," she insisted. No arguments. The following days were a blur. Melanie made space for me in her guest room. She cooked. She listened. She reminded me that I wasn't alone. Meanwhile, Anna was silent. No calls. No texts. As if I never existed. One evening, I logged into our joint bank account. Gone. Every dollar. Transferred to a different account, hers. She'd emptied our savings, the emergency fund I'd built when I was still working tech support full-time. The money meant for a down payment on a new car, for my medical expenses, for our future. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, painful and surreal. But it wasn't just about money. It was the betrayal, the absolute cruelty of it. I dug deeper. With the help of a friend who worked in IT, I pulled her call logs, social profiles, anything I could find. Turns out, Anna hadn't been working late. She'd been staying with someone else. An ex-boyfriend from her college days who'd just moved back to the city. Suddenly, it all made sense. The secrecy, the silence, the gaslighting. The old me might have tried to talk to her, to reason with her, to ask why she did it. But not anymore. Pain has a way of chiseling away weakness until all that's left is raw, unflinching strength. Over the next 2 months, I focused on recovery. I started walking more, strength training, reading, journaling. I even began learning about investments, something I'd always put off. Melanie, bless her, was the one who encouraged me to take legal action. "She stole your money. That's not just cold-hearted. It's illegal." It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice. So I filed for small claims court. documented every transaction, every text, every message. I even printed out screenshots of her tagging her new man in photos taken at expensive restaurants, presumably funded by my drained savings. And then came the turning point. I remembered that the house we lived in, my house, had only ever been in my name, because Anna never wanted the paperwork stress. She said she trusted me to handle the boring stuff. Oh, the irony. With the help of a lawyer friend, I began the process of eviction. Legally, I had every right. She was a guest, not a tenant. No lease, no written agreement. Anna didn't take it seriously at first. She thought I was bluffing. She sent a single text the day she got the notice. "You're really gonna do this to me?" I didn't reply. Some silences are louder than screams. Weeks passed. And then, just as winter crept in, she was gone. No goodbye. No apology. Just an empty house, and a new fire burning in my chest. Not of anger, but purpose. It was early January when the court date arrived. The cold made the courthouse steps feel like ice under my shoes, but inside, I burned with clarity. Anna showed up 15 minutes late, dressed in designer boots and that same smug expression I once mistook for confidence. She didn't look at me when she sat down, just flipped her hair over her shoulder and kept her phone in hand. Typical. But when the judge walked in, the air shifted. I'd prepared everything. Screenshots, transaction records, shared text logs from our bank's customer service chat, all proving that she had drained our joint savings account without my knowledge or consent. She claimed it was her money too, that I had told her to use what she needed. The judge asked her for documentation. She had none. My lawyer then dropped the hammer. Bank footage showing her transferring the funds days after leaving me, even visiting a luxury retailer that same week. Her defense crumbled. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. She was ordered to repay $14,000 over 12 months, or face garnishment. I didn't smile. Not in court. But inside I was steady. This wasn't about gloating. This was about finally being seen. After the eviction notice had taken full effect, I returned to the house for the first time since the ordeal began. It was strange walking through that front door. Her scent was gone. Her photos were off the walls. The place felt empty, but not in a sad way, more like a blank slate. I took time redecorating, painted the living room, threw out the mattress we used to share, donated her leftover clothes. Anything with her memory attached was stripped clean. Meanwhile, I kept hearing rumors from mutual acquaintances. Anna and her new boyfriend? Already done. He found out about the court case and backed off fast. Classic coward. She tried couch surfing for a bit. Then she called one of my former co-workers, trying to spin the narrative. Say I was obsessed, vengeful, unstable. What she didn't know was that people talk. And every time she tried to rewrite the past, someone forwarded me the messages. It was pathetic, watching her grasp at a reality that no longer existed. 2 months later, it happened. I was grabbing groceries, something simple, a loaf of bread and a few apples, when I spotted her at the self-checkout. She looked tired. Her once perfect hair tied in a limp bun, oversized hoodie swallowing her frame. Her boots, those same designer ones she flaunted in court, were scuffed, heels worn nearly flat. I could have walked away, pretended not to notice, but something inside me needed closure. I stepped beside her and said quietly, "Didn't expect to see you here." She froze. Her hand hovered over the payment screen. She looked up, startled, and then her expression hardened. "Are you following me?" I chuckled. "In a grocery store? You're not that special, Anna." She stared for a moment, then rolled her eyes. "Still bitter, huh? Can't let go." That's when I knew she was still pretending, clinging to some fantasy where she had power over me. But she didn't. Not anymore. "I'm not bitter," I said. "I'm just glad you're finally learning what helpless really feels like." She scoffed. "You think I care? You're pathetic. Always were." I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because her words no longer had weight. "You left me at a gas station," I said slowly. "You stole from me. You lied, cheated, and laughed behind my back. But look at us now. You're sleeping in someone's spare room, if that. And me? I've got the house, the money, and my peace. She didn't respond, just swiped her card, grabbed her bag, and walked away like she was late for something. But her shoulders sagged, her steps were heavy. She wasn't walking in power. She was retreating. That night, I stood outside my home. The same house she tried to claim, the one she thought I'd lose without her. The stars were clear above, the air crisp. For the first time in a long time, I felt grounded. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was healing. I'd started freelancing again, slowly rebuilding my income. I even enrolled in a course to sharpen my coding skills, something I'd shelved for years. And the house? It no longer felt like our space. It was mine. Every photo, every corner, every cent. It had been reclaimed. Melanie came by often. We laughed more, cooked together, talked about things that had nothing to do with heartbreak. Life was simple and quiet and mine. But something told me Anna wasn't done yet. Some people don't just burn bridges, they build rafts out of the wreckage and come floating back. And when she did, I'd be ready. It was a gray Sunday morning when the knock came. 3 dull raps. Not urgent, not timid, just there. I opened the door, expecting a neighbor, a delivery, maybe even Melanie with one of her surprise casseroles. But there she stood, Anna. She looked thinner, pale. Her hoodie was soaked from the rain, and her sneakers squelched on the porch tiles. A duffel bag hung from one shoulder, fraying at the seams. For a split second, I froze. My instincts screamed to slam the door, but curiosity held me in place. "Can I talk to you?" she asked, her voice small. I leaned against the doorframe. "You've got 5 seconds before I call the police." She sighed. "Please, just 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking." I didn't invite her in. I walked outside, pulling the door shut behind me. If this was going to happen, it wasn't going to be inside my house. We sat on the steps, the cold seeping through my jeans. Anna clutched her bag like it held her last piece of dignity. "I'm staying at a friend's place," she began, not meeting my eyes. "But it's not permanent. I'm looking for work." I stayed silent, let her talk. "I made mistakes," she said after a long pause. I was angry. I felt trapped. And when I met someone who gave me attention, I messed up. I know that. I let the rain speak for a moment. "Is this the part where I'm supposed to feel bad for you?" I asked. "No," she replied. "This is the part where I ask for your help." I laughed. A dry, incredulous laugh that echoed off the street. "Help? After what you did?" She looked up then, her eyes puffy. "I don't need money. I need a place, just for a few nights, until I figure things out." And there it was, the real reason she came. Not guilt, not closure, shelter. It would have been so easy to say yes. Part of me, the part that still remembered late-night movies and shared laughter, almost did. But that part died the day she left me at the gas station. "I'm sorry," I said, "but you burned this bridge. You poured gasoline on it and danced while it collapsed." Her lips quivered. "I didn't think you'd survive without me." That was the truth, wasn't it? She needed me to be helpless. She needed me to stay broken so she could stay superior. And now, with that power gone, she was scrambling. "You have no idea how much better my life has become since you left," I continued. "And I'm not letting you back in, not even for one night." She stood, brushing rain from her sleeves. Her eyes hardened again, the apology slipping away. "You think you're better than me now?" she snapped. "Living in a house I helped decorate? With money that should have been ours." I rose slowly. "The house was never yours. You never paid a dime toward it. You used me, Anna. Used my kindness, my recovery, my trust. And now you're angry because I won't let you do it again." She stared at me, soaked and furious. Then she said the one thing that made my blood run cold. "This isn't over." A few days passed. Then strange things began happening. First, I got an email from a local landlord, replying to a rental inquiry I never made. Then a cancellation notice from a streaming service I didn't touch. My email password had been changed twice in the same week. Then the police showed up at my door. Someone had filed a noise complaint, said I was hosting loud parties. I live alone. I don't even own speakers. It didn't take long to connect the dots. Anna was spiraling, and she was trying to drag me back into the chaos. I went straight to the police station and filed for a restraining order. I showed them the eviction records, the financial case, the recent disturbances. The officer listened closely and nodded as he typed up the report. "You did the right thing coming in," he said. "People like this, they don't usually stop unless someone draws the line for them." I left with a court date and a heaviness in my chest. I didn't want a war. I just wanted peace. But some people can't stand to see you build a life they thought you'd never have. On the day of the hearing, Anna didn't even show up. Her absence said more than words ever could. She wasn't here to fight back. She just wanted to rattle the cage. The restraining order was granted. Later that week, Melanie texted me a screenshot from a mutual friend's social media. It was Anna's account, a selfie from the front seat of a car. Captioned, "Still standing. Can't break me." But I wasn't trying to break her. I was just done letting her break me. It started with a voicemail. Blocked number. Static crackled under her voice. "I know you think you've won, but this isn't over. You owe me, and I swear, I'll make you pay." I played it twice. 3 times. The venom in her voice wasn't just anger. It was obsession. She couldn't stand the idea that I'd moved on while she was stuck in survival mode. That same night, someone keyed the side of my car. Deep gouges. Precise. Deliberate. A cruel signature carved into metal. The police noted it, logged it as possible harassment. But without video, there was nothing they could do. I installed cameras the next day. Around the house, the driveway, even the mailbox. She wouldn't get the satisfaction of surprise again. I threw myself into work. The coding course I enrolled in had become more than just a distraction. It was an escape. Late nights turned into early mornings. I freelanced on weekends, poured energy into rebuilding what she tried to tear down. And Melanie? She became more than just a friend. Slowly, carefully. One night, we were making dinner together, just pasta and cheap wine. When she looked at me and said, "You're not the same person you were 6 months ago," I paused, fork in hand. "Better or worse?" "Stronger," she said. "Like you stopped trying to hold up someone else's life and finally started living your own." That stuck with me. But just as things started to feel steady, Anna resurfaced. I'd applied for a junior dev position at a mid-sized tech company. Remote, flexible, decent pay. After 2 interviews, I was called in for a final video call with the CTO. It was going great until he asked something strange. We had a strange email come in. Someone claiming to be your previous partner, warning us you were mentally unstable and vindictive. Normally we'd ignore that, but it was detailed. I felt my blood go cold. "She mentioned personal things," he continued. "Details no stranger would know." I didn't deny it. I told them the truth about the breakup, the court case, the restraining order. I even offered the case file number. To my surprise, the CTO nodded slowly. "Honestly, we've seen worse. Appreciate the transparency. We'll follow up soon." They hired me a week later. Still, the violation lingered. Anna had tried to sabotage the one thing I had left that she couldn't touch, my future. But all she did was remind me why she no longer had a place in it. It happened on a Tuesday. Quiet. Overcast. I came home from the gym and saw her sitting on the curb outside my house. Just sitting. Not speaking. Her duffel bag at her feet again. This time I didn't approach. I didn't shout. I walked into my house, locked the door, and called the police. By the time they arrived, she was standing on the lawn, screaming, "You think you're better than me? You think you can erase me?" The officers calmed her down, cuffed her gently, and placed her in the back of the cruiser. I watched from the window, not with pride, not with glee, but with finality. She'd crossed the line, and now it was out of my hands. Later, the officer returned with a clipboard. "She violated the order. This will hold. She needs help," I said quietly, "but I'm not the one who can give it to her anymore." He nodded. "Sometimes, Walking away is the only thing left to do. For the first time in nearly a year, the house felt like mine in full. No ghosts, no tension, just peace. I replaced the locks, got a new number, even repainted the front door, a subtle green. Melanie said it made the place feel hopeful. One night we sat on the porch, watching the sunset. "You ever think about what you'd say to her now if you had the chance?" she asked. I thought about it. The long nights, the manipulation, the small betrayals that added up to one colossal wound. And then I said, I wouldn't say anything. I've already said enough. Now I just live. It arrived on a Thursday. No return address. Just my name, scribbled in rough handwriting. I almost tossed it in the trash, assuming it was junk. But something made me pause. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single page. Lined notebook paper, torn at the edge. And it was from her. "You probably won't read this. Maybe you'll tear it up. Maybe you should." But I wanted to say it anyway. The letter was messy. Spelling errors. Crossed out words. The ramblings of someone who had finally run out of people to blame. "You were never helpless. I just told myself that so I wouldn't have to feel guilty about walking away. I thought leaving you behind would make me feel free. But I only made myself smaller. Meaner. I couldn't face what I'd done. So I kept hurting you, hoping you'd lash out. So I could pretend you were the villain. There was no apology. Not really. Just honesty. And maybe that was more meaningful. She didn't ask to come back. Didn't ask for money. She just wrote, "You were the only person who ever loved me without wanting something in return. And I ruined that. I hope someday I can stop ruining things." I read it twice. Then I folded it back up, placed it in a drawer, and didn't tell anyone about it for weeks. Because sometimes closure doesn't come in a dramatic moment. It comes quietly in an envelope when you least expect it. Life moved on, as it always does. Melanie and I took a weekend trip to the coast. Something I would have never done before. We sat on driftwood logs, toes in the sand, watching the tide erase footprints one by one. "Do you ever feel like you're waiting for her to come back?" Melanie asked softly. "No," I said. "For the first time, I'm not waiting for anything." I meant it. The cameras stayed up, but I stopped checking them obsessively. My phone stayed on silent. I went whole days without thinking of Anna, until I realized that was the real victory. Not the restraining order. Not the revenge. Freedom. About a month later, I ran into someone who used to know Anna, Derek, a mutual acquaintance from way back. We crossed paths at a coffee shop. "Hey man," he said, cautious. "I heard what happened. You good?" "I'm better than I've ever been," I replied. He nodded. "She's in a shelter out near Eastboro. Tried living with a cousin, but it didn't last. She's kind of ghosting around now." I didn't ask for more. I didn't need to know. It wasn't my story anymore. And that's when I realized this wasn't about what she'd become. It was about what I had survived. You never really know how strong you are until someone takes everything and walks away. The house, the money, your sense of worth. But sometimes, being stripped to the bone is how you find what you're really made of. I wasn't helpless. I was just held down by someone who needed me small. And once I stood up, she didn't know how to deal with that. That's the truth of toxic love. It doesn't want a partner. It wants a prisoner. And the day you unlock your own cell is the day the story really begins. She thought I was helpless, that I'd crumble without her, that I'd beg for her back, or at the very least, remain a cautionary tale in the ruins of our life. Instead, I rebuilt, not out of spite, but out of necessity, because some people leave you broken, and some leave you better. And she's homeless now. Not just without a roof, but without a place in my life, my thoughts, or my heart. And me? I'm home.